Hello friends, welcome to Finance MCQ. I am CA Pritam Sangwan and today we will discuss about cash flow statement, which is a part of commerce and accountancy subject of paper 2, which is a technical syllabus of your SEBI grade A exam journal stream. Friends, this technical syllabus is of 100 marks in phase 1 and it has 2/3 weightage in phase 2 of your SEBI grade A exam. And friends, you can find entire technical syllabus of SEBI grade A exam chapter wise, topic wise on Finance MCQ website in MCQ question format. You can visit the website and practice entire technical syllabus there. I have put the website link in the description box below. So let's begin. Friends, first we'll start with what can be asked in your SEBI exam related to cash flow statement. Friends, they can ask you about objectives of cash flow statement, or they can ask about advantages of cash flow statement, or they can ask about accounting standards which related to cash flow statement. Then they can ask about various activities of cash flow statements, then methods of cash flow statements, and they can also ask question about various items appearing under cash flow statement. So from all these points they can ask you questions from cash flow statement. Friends, they will not ask you question related to preparation of cash flow statement. Why? Because it's a lengthy process and in MCQ format questions preparation of cash flow statement is not relevant, so it won't be asked. Also, they will not ask you questions related to calculation of cash flow statement, that you have to calculate the entire thing. They will ask you specific points from your cash flow statements. This thing in mind, let's start our discussion regarding cash flow statement. Friends, now first usual question comes up, what is a cash flow statement? So friends, it is an statement which shows inflow and outflow of cash and cash equivalent. So it's a statement which reflects both cash inflow and cash outflow. It is usually prepared by the company, so it doesn't mean that other enterprise can't prepare. So it can be prepared by anyone who wants to prepare it can do so, but for the company it is required. It is a requirement that they need to prepare cash flow statement. And friend, it helps user to know about sources and uses of cash and cash equivalent. So cash flow statement helps its users regarding what are the sources of cash, that from where the money is been taken and where it is applied. So it will help them to know uses and sources of cash and cash equivalent. Further, cash flow statement prepared in accordance with AS3 cash flow statement. So this is a very important thing. They can ask you in an exam under which accounting standard cash flow statement is prepared. So it is prepared as per AS3 cash flow statement, and it is prepared for each accounting period along with your financial statement. So friends, your financial statement will consist of your trading profit and loss account, balance sheet and cash flow statement. So I hope the initial basic meaning of cash flow statement is clear to all of you. Now let's move on to the next point. Now friends, let's discuss objectives of cash flow statement. Friends, the primary objective of cash flow statement is to provide useful information about cash flows, that is cash inflow and outflow of an enterprise. So that is its primary objective, that to provide information about cash inflow and outflow. And friends, that is during a particular period under various head. So we can say cash flow statement is prepared for on yearly basis, like at the end of the year along with the balance sheet and financials, your cash flow statement is prepared. So it will show cash flow inflow and outflow during a particular period, say from April to March. So it will reflect for that period under various heads. So there are the different heads under a cash flow statement, so it shows cash flow in those heads. And friends, it helps users to evaluate changes in net assets of an enterprise, that what are the changes in their assets. On that basis, it also helps them to evaluate and the cash flow in that. Further, its financial structure, that is the changes in net assets and its financial structure. So if there is any further issue of shares or redemption of shares or any debts has been raised, so all those things can be traced from your cash flow statements and also help them to evaluate financial structure and amount and timing of cash flows in order to adapt to changing circumstances and opportunities. So I hope this objective part is clear. Now let's move on to the next point. Now let's talk about what is cash and cash equivalent. So friends, as per AS3 cash flow statement, cash consists of a cash in hand, then demand deposit with bank, that is any deposit you have kept with the bank will be your consider as your cash only, and then cash equivalents. So now this is the third point, the cash equivalent. So friends, it means short term investment that is 3 months or less, which is highly liquid and can be easily converted into cash. Friends, it excludes investment in shares unless they are sustainable cash equivalent. So what does it means? So suppose if you have made an investment in shares with a purpose that within few days you will sell it off and you will liquidate it, then it will be considered as your cash equivalent. Otherwise it won't be considered under cash and cash equivalent. So I hope this is clear that your cash and cash equivalent will consist of cash in hand, your any deposits with the bank, your cash equivalents. Your cash equivalent will consider of your short term investments which are having a maturity period of 3 months or less. So let's move to our next point. Now we will friend discuss various activities under cash flow statements. So which are the various activities? So the first one we are having is operating activity, then we have investing activity, then we have financing activity. So these are the three activities under cash flow statement. We discussed that the cash flow statement user can able to see from cash flows from various heads. So these are the heads of cash flow statements. We call them activities of cash flow statement. So let's discuss them one by one. First we have friends is operating activity. Now what is this operating activity? It's an activity which constitute major objective of the enterprise. Say suppose for an automotive company which manufacture car, the main objective of that enterprise is manufacturing of cars. So it constitute main objective of the company and it indicates internal solvency of the company. Now what does it means? Your operating activity, cash flow from operating activity will tell you how is your internal solvency, whether that operating activity is a cash generating activity or not. So it helps you to know your internal solvency. Then it indicates operational capability. Now what does this operational capability means? It means that your cash flow statement from operating activity will help you to evaluate whether it is sustainable to carry out that operations or not. Because if it is a positive inflow from operating activity, it ultimately means that your operation is generating cash, and if it is in losses or if it is a negative cash flow from operation activity, so it means that whatever you are doing is not up to the mark in your operations. And friends, cash flow from operating activity is derived from main activity of the business. Now what does it means? It says that operating activity, so like in the same example of what we have taken for the automotive company, their main operation is manufacturing of cars. So for them the operating activity will be manufacturing of cars. Say suppose if they are doing a side business, the trading in shares, so whether the shares trading in shares will be considered as their operating activity? The answer is no. Your cash flow from operating activity will consider of your main activity of the business only and not others. So I hope this meaning of operating activity is clear. Now let's move on to the next point and discuss the examples of this operating activity. Friends, operating activity under this, the cash inflows will come from sale of goods and services of your main activity. Then you have royalties, fees, commissions and other revenues which will form part of your cash inflow. So under operating activity, your cash inflow will be your sale of goods and services and your any income from royalties, any fees, commissions and other main revenue which are related to the main activity. And your cash outflow in operating activity will consist of your payment to suppliers. So here the payment to the suppliers of your raw materials and other materials required for your manufacturing of goods. So that will be part of your cash outflow. And then you will have payment to your employees and other related benefits, that is PF, PT, gratuity, all those things, whatever the payments you made to your employee for running or carrying out that operating activity. And then you have payment for income tax. Say whatever the sales you have made and income you have earned from your operating activity, the taxes you are paying on that will be part of your operating activity cash outflow. So these will be the overall inflows and outflows item of cash from operating activity. So I hope it is clear. Now let's move on to our next point. Now friends, let us discuss investment activity. So friends, it is related to purchase and sale of long-term assets or fixed assets, that is your land, building, machinery, etc. So if I ask you what is my investment activity related to, so it is related to purchase and sale of your long-term assets or your fixed assets, that is land, building, plant and machinery, etc. Transactions related to long-term investments are also included here. So friends, here any investments made for the long-term purpose is also included in your investment activity. Investment activity represent extent of expenditure incurred on resources which are intended for generating future income and cash flow. So to summarize your investment activity, it represent whatever the expenditure you have incurred on the resources for which you will generate your future income and cash flow for the business. Here you purchase land, building, machinery for generating income for the business, and the same way you make an investment for the purpose of earning good returns over the period. So all these will be part of your investment activity. So I hope this investment activity is clear. Now let's move on to our next point and discuss some of the items covered under investment activity. So friends, the first we'll talk about cash inflow under investment activity. So first one, we will have cash or sale of fixed assets. Whatever the fixed assets we sell, we get an inflow, cash inflow from them. Then we have sale of shares, that is your sale of investments or receipts of repayment of advances or loans made to the third party. So here the first thing, if we sell shares of the investments that we have made, we will get the cash inflow. And receipt of repayment of advances, if we have given advances or loans to a third party and they are making a repayment or they are paying us back whatever the advances they have taken, it amounts to cash inflow and will be shown in investment activity. Then whatever the dividend received from investment, if company has made certain investment and they have received dividend on those investments, so this dividend will form part of cash inflow. Now let's talk about cash outflow. So friends, in cash outflow, first will be purchase of fixed assets. So whatever the purchases of fixed assets you will make, it will ultimately results into cash outflow, and your purchase of fixed assets will be shown under your cash outflow. Then investment in shares, if you are making any investment in shares, so it results into a cash outflow and it will form part of your investment activity. Then any advances and loans made to the third party, so if you make any loans and advance and given it to the third party or third person, it amounts to a cash outflow and it will be shown under investment activity. So I hope investment activity is clear, and what are the items appearing in investment activity is also clear under both cash inflow and cash outflow. So now let's move on to a third activity, that is finance activity. So friends, it is related to capital or long-term funds of the enterprise. And friends, this activity results in change in owner's capital and borrowings of the enterprise. So in this activity, finance activity, we can see if there is any change in owner's capital or borrowed capital. The reason being, if shares are issued, it is reflected in finance activity, and if there is additional debt is borrowed by the company, it is also reflected in this activity. then it is relevant for predicting future cash flows by providers of the fund. So here what happened, the whoever person that who's paying the money to the company, by looking at the finance activity, they can come to know how much funds is with the company or how much finance company have, so as to generate the future income. So it will be very helpful for them to predict future cash flows. So I hope this finance activity meaning is clear. Now let's move on to the next point and discuss various items which fall under financing activity. So friends, first we'll discuss about the cash inflows in finance activity. Your proceeds from issue of shares, that is equity or preference shares. So if you have made any issue of shares or preference shares, so you will get the money. It is a cash inflow for you and it will be shown under finance activity. Then you have proceeds from issue of debentures, bond, loans, etc. That is your debt or borrowing. So if you make any borrowing, that is if you have taken any loan from your any bank, say example, so you will receive cash. So that will be a cash inflow and such loan will be shown under finance activity. Now let's talk about cash outflow under finance activity. Friends, in this the repayment of debenture, bond, loan, etc. will be shown here. Like whatever the income you get, it is your cash inflow, and your cash outflow will be repayment of debenture, bond, loan or etc. Then your cash outflow will be payment of interest on debenture, bond, loan, etc. So whatever the loan or borrowings you have taken, the interest payment will also form part of your finance activity under cash outflow. Then any dividend payment. So if you have make a dividend payment to your shareholders, it will be considered as a financing activity. Friends, here remember that if you make a dividend payment, it's a finance activity, and if you receive a dividend, then it will be your investment activity, because we receive dividend on our investments. So keep this in mind. So I hope this finance activity and cash inflow and cash outflow in finance activity is also clear. Friends, we keep this video till here only. In the next video we will discuss about various format of cash flow statement, that is how it is prepared, then examples of cash flow statement under direct and indirect method, and then important items from your exam point of view from cash flow statement. So there are certain example, like as I discussed, dividend received and dividend payment. So there are different things that one come under cash flow from finance activity, another one come from cash from investment activity. So like this, which are those items which are very crucial from your cash flow statement. So we will discuss those things in our next video. Friends, for more practice of this topic in MCQ format, I request you to please visit Finance MCQ website. It has entire SEBI graded technical syllabus, which is paper 2 of journal stream in MCQ format. It has 2000 plus subject wise, topic wise MCQ questions to practice. We have added explanations for correct answers wherever required. It also has 25 test series for your technical syllabus to practice. So friends, there is lot of study materials to practice on finance MCQ. Do visit the website for more practice and increase your selection chances. Friends, website link is in the description box below. I will come up with new video. Till then, take care and thank you so much for watching.